Hi, welcome back to the Spirit's Path. This is D, and today's tarot card of the day out of the Wildwood Tarot deck is the Eight of Stones in Skill. And when I was thinking about this card today, I know personally when I go through an area of trying to find some justice, right? Trying to make that decision, as I talked about yesterday with that Two of Arrows and justice, making that decision. And the thought that keeps coming to mind when I focus on this is just get back to basics. You hear that in baseball, you hear that in football, all the sports. When things aren't going your way, just relax. Get back to basics. And, this Eight of Stones is telling me with a skill set is, for me, it's just going back to basics. But, for you, it might not be just going back to basics. It might be, taking that opportunity to make that hard decision, right? To make that hard decision in your head to say, you know what? I'm going to move forward with this, that, and the other thing. And, the Eight of Stones, that skill set allows you to put that dedication into that decision, right? And, one of the things that really stand out on this card for me is that handprint that's up on the wall, all right? For me, it tells me that I put my mark where I need to make it. And it might be, for you as you're moving on your spiritual path, that as you're working on that inner strength, as you're working on that inner courage, right? As you're projecting yourself out there after coming out of the world tree, that maybe now I need to put my hand up on that wall or on the tree or whatever and just make your mark. And once you make that decision to make your mark, you're doing so with, dedication and, focus, concentration, however you want to look at it. And you start working on the mental piece and the emotional piece, because you still have this King of Vessels heron down here as well, right? You start working on that inner focus within yourself, saying, you know what? I am not going to be exploited. I am not going to feel, even though I feel vulnerable, I'm not going to show it to everybody. So I'm going to work on my inner strength. And by doing that, I may focus on doing other spiritual practices. Maybe I do more meditation. Maybe I do more, cleansing. Okay, things of that nature of just, let's get this emotion out, right? Let's get this vulnerability out. Let's, have that inner strength work that's going on, looking at the shadows of yourself to move forward. And when you focus on that, on looking within, and you focus on your skill set that you have, okay, you become more proficient at it. Okay, it becomes like a second guide for you. All right, and as you're doing it, you're touching your ancestors, you're touching your intuition, you're touching the universe, to help guide you along the way. And at that point, once you get to a place where you're comfortable, where you've made your mark, within, and you're making, now you want to make your mark without, what that does is that opens up opportunities. It opens up new challenges, for you to, sometimes get out there. And, this is what I want to do. Maybe, I want to, work in a healing clinic. Okay. Maybe I want to, go to, more fair booths, psychic fairs and stuff like that. Maybe even set up my own, your own psychic fair booth, right? Get more involved in that craft where, your skill set's developing and you are growing as a spiritual leader, within out there in the environment. And, again, most of the tarot cards are going to teach patience and persistence and commitment and dedication. And this card is very strong in that, right? Because he's got 7 different stones sitting down there. Okay, he's got 3 of them that, he's smart enough and he's crafty enough to, I'm going to make some, light oil, holders, whatever that is. And he's made his mark within the community, just like you'll make your mark within the community, whether that's, the local community or, here in a video, community, like YouTube or anything like that. So it's mastering that perseverance. It's mastering that discipline of the skill. And, when you're touching the universe, when you're touching spirit, when you're touching the ancestors, you're divinely blessed, right? You're blessed to be able to make 7 different, opportunities for you that can be used within the community. You're divinely blessed that you're able to take your talents out and share it with others. And, with that, knowing that just fills you up with positive energy. And once you get, as you're filling up with that positive energy, things start transcending again. It puts you on a different level. And the universe notices that. The universe notices when, you're in a low vibe energy and a high vibe energy. And with the low vibe energy, the low vibe things are going to catch you. Like yesterday when we talked about that 2 of arrows in the drama. Don't get caught up in the drama, because that's just going to bring you down. Stay above that drama. If you want to be a teacher or a mentor with that drama, ask the questions like, how do you feel about that? And just, get the feelings involved, because once the feelings start coming out, then you start, as a person, you start to realize this really isn't serving me. This is not doing me any good thinking about this negative aspect. And, awareness, is, I want to say it's a B, right? Because once you're aware of it, then you can make a change. And if you don't make that change, that's on you. That ain't on anybody else, okay? Because you've got the power to make that decision. So that's today's card of the day, the 8 of Stones and skill. If you're interested in a reading, check out the link below, and hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, share it with others, and give me a thumbs up. And this is D for the Spirit's Path. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care, God bless, and stay safe, everybody.